Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Just Another Solar Podcast. My name is Nigel Morris. I'll be steering the ship today, and I'm going to welcome my crew. Without a crew, you don't have a ship, you don't go anywhere. All the way from the land of the long white cloud, Mr. Carl Jensen. How are you, Carl?
Awesome, Nige, and it wouldn't be me if I did give you a weather report for New Zealand, and I can tell you here it's fucking cold. It's really cold already.
Is it?
Yeah, arrived into Auckland at 1:30 in the morning on Monday, took an hour and a half drive down to Hamilton, and the fog was on the ground. It was the most difficult drive I think I've ever had to do my entire life.
Oof.
So 4 hours sleep and straight into working, wrapping the ice dog.
Not sure if
Working.
not sure if the Tesla autopilot's going to quite get you through fog that thick.
No,
by the sounds of it.
I had a Kia Seltos, and I took it back to the rental car, and I said, "Look, I couldn't find where to plug it in." She says it's a petrol car, and I said, "Well, it's got no petrol in it."
Petrol? I'm unfamiliar.
Yeah.
So what do you speak?
Turns out range anxiety is a huge thing in these petrol cars because over here petrol's $3.50 a litre. So range anxiety, absolutely a thing. Did not want to go anywhere.
Oh, that's too funny, Carl. And welcome from the other dimension. We see, for those of you watching on YouTube, Carl has a mesmerising blue thing that looks like it's
portal, maybe?
Yeah, portal, another dimension or something in the background. Better give Ghostbusters a call. Jess McPherson, welcome, Jess McPherson. How the hell are you?
Oh, mate. I think finally taking a bit of a breath. I don't know if other people are feeling the same, but lots of people are still buying. Like, we're still booking out in advance in a really healthy way for our business, but the inquiries have finally, for us at least, started to, go down to like busy instead of crazy busy, we're back to busy.
Yeah. Right. I see you Eddie's handed the reins over too. I see where you're working. So you've got a new boss. Eddie's gone off to, drink pina coladas in the sunset in the South Pacific. How's that all panning out?
Amazing. Well, admittedly, it's not all that different for us. Eddie's been doing the Fiji project for a while now. Dan's really been, calling the shots for a while. So, and Eddie's still around. He's still peeking his little head in here and there and keeping an eye on things. But I think one of those ones where it makes a lot of sense for our business and where it is. Eddie likes to do wild things, which is fun, but not always conducive to keeping everything stable. So
you know what I like? You know why I asked this question about what's going on? Because, in times like this, when the market is running hot, and be that, in a retail business like yours, in a wholesale and sort of different business like Carl's, or whether it's in an industry organization like I'm in, everyone seems to be juggling staff and trying to build capacity and, elevating different leaders within the organization and juggling all those kind of things around. It seems like there's it's almost like a dose of the clap. It's across the industry.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just spreading wildly because everyone's busy trying to cope. So they're also juggling all their business structures and people and everything else, right? It seems to be a really common theme that I'm hearing.
Well, I think it takes a lot to be able to actually let go of that control. And I think it's a real testament to Eddie and what a leader he is to be able to say, like, I know that what I want to do doesn't make sense for where this business is. And I'm just going to go build something that makes more sense for how I want to, how I want to operate, how I want to run things. So now he's like supplying, I mentioned this when I said it a few episodes ago, but he's supplying an island with power for the first time, which is like crazy. It's like, so and he's cool. Like, he's got his drone up trying to figure out where he wants to put transmission lines, and these kids have never seen a drone like before in their life, like stuff like that. It's crazy perspective. It really puts, it shifts how you look at, how simple turning a light on is, which is cool. It's great that we still can get that, even though it's sort of its own separate little thing.
Sounds a bit like New Zealand, Jess. They've got no FTCs over there, so
I'm pretty sure New Zealand has mains power,
sure,
Carl. Like,
look, but
I spent some time there.
their solar industry is in nappies versus Australia's solar industry. I feel like I've stepped back in time by a decade. And whilst they've got the same access to the products that we've got now in Australia, in terms of what's actually been rolled out and what's installed on people's roofs, they're a decade behind here. In terms of heat pumps, they just don't exist. I've been round to a couple of dozen people. They tell me that they're spending more than $1,000 a year on bottled gas. And I just throw my hands in the air and say, if someone told me that it would cost $1,000 to heat my water for a year, it'd be, you are joking. That is crazy. So there, every person we've spoken to, there's lots of bottled gas here, and we just don't see that in Australia anymore. It's just not a thing.
Wow.
Going back in time.
But I want to dig more into NZ because you're over there, and it's several years since I've been over, Carl, to dig into what's going on in the New Zealand market. But I do remember even the last time I went over several years ago, the battery attachment rate was super high. And I kind of went, oh my God, they were at 70, 80% battery attachment rate way before we were. We're slow off the mark to catch up to New Zealand and that. But the reason was because solar didn't make any sense financially anyway, neither did batteries. So the people who were taking it up didn't care about the cost and didn't care about, they were very, very early adopters in the early adopter cycle. So it just made sense that the battery attachment rate made more sense because early adopters just want to do it technically in a cool way or whatever. Where's the market up to now, Carl?
Well, I saw an LDV ute, fully electric, driving down the highway. So we have no fully electric utes apart from the F-150 Lightning, which has arguably been a flop. So saw one of those driving down the road. There's lots of weird and wonderful electric cars that we haven't seen in Australia yet. In fact, there's lots of weird and wonderful cars. Full stop. They're actually mostly shit boxes, but
they've got a grey import deal with the US, if I'm not mistaken, because they've got a few electric motorcycling buddies over there who used to be able to really easily bring in vehicles out of the US.
Yeah.
And so they've got a small land footprint, so EV charging, distance between EV charging is less of an issue.
Charges, definitely. All the hotels, lots of places. The hotel I stayed at in Hamilton, across the road was a multi-story electric car park. You drive your car in, it lifts it up to another level, drive a car in, rinse, repeat on a conveyor belt sort of affair. A couple of big kick-ass 50 kilowatt SunGrow EV chargers in the foyer of that area, so that was good. The hotel had an EV charger. Seen petrol stations with a row of 4 or 5 EV chargers. So I'm thinking that the EV charger infrastructure here is really good. People at electrical wholesalers are talking about capacity constraints and people being worried about not being able to charge their electric cars. Of course, I said, you can charge it at night while everybody's asleep. Then there's plenty of capacity in the grid here to do that. They just need to figure out how it's all going to work.
And so the big challenge over in NZ historically, tell me if this is still the case, has been that they've got such an abundance of renewable energy, mostly through hydro and a fair bit of wind, I believe, that they've got very clean, very low cost energy. They've got a ridiculous amount of DNSPs over there. It's like dozens and hundreds of DNSPs in these little counties. It's very old school the way that it's set up. But the fundamental challenge for renewables over there has been that the large scale through hydro and wind, most of the generation is pretty renewable and pretty cheap anyway. Is that still the case?
Well, Christchurch was in a blanket of smog today because the temperature was low this morning and people light their fires. Christchurch sits in a bowl with a mountain range at one side and the ocean at a sort of a mountain range at the other side. So there's a lot of smoke haze around today. and people are telling me that they're paying 36 cents a kilowatt hour peak rate. One guy was telling me he was getting a 60-cent feed-in tariff for basically all the daylight hours. Seems crazy.
Wow.
So there seems to be a significant mix of what people are paying from their energy retailers. Certainly driving around, there's not a lot of solar panels on people's roofs.
No, the penetration rate's been pretty low historically because of those economics, right? It's pretty hard to make it stack up.
Yep.
So that hasn't changed much. It's still just a, nice place to go, small market, pretty dinky, lovely people.
Well, I suppose for that whole self-sufficiency point, like to like Carl's saying, people who want to, don't want to be stressed about charging their cars, right? Like there's still quite a bit of argument to be made there. Exactly like you said earlier, Nige, like not everyone does these things based on ROI, right? I think we get very locked into that here in Australia because it does make sense and has for so long that it's an expectation. But, that's a lot of the world, I'm sure, doesn't have that so much to contend with.
I'm not sure why, but the price of petrol and diesel over here is very close. Petrol in Australia seems to have dropped back down to the $2.10 a litre kind of money. And over here, petrol's over $3 and diesel's $3.70. Their Aussie dollar to New Zealand dollar is about 122. So, obviously in Aussie dollars it's a bit less, and it's the diesel similar price, but the petrol is significantly more expensive here. Very interesting.
How long are you in NZ for, and what's the mission?
I've been here for a week, and the mission was to launch our new distributor, which is Smiths NZ. So they're a hot water business. They've done hot water elements. These days, they also do solar products like Clenergy, Trina, Sungrow, and Intella. Intella is the same Huawei gear that iStore sells in Australia, and they're growing into a bigger solar wholesaler.
Well, good luck with the rest of the mission, mate. I hope it goes well over there. I'm going to switch gears a bit because the presses have been running hot this week as a consequence of I'm just going to call it for what it is. A great big fat hit piece from Channel 7. They came out with a story this week.
Some recycled garbage about nickel in battery, or not nickel, cobalt.
Cobalt, and I think they made reference to nickel as well, but yeah, like old school, like just like
the last hit piece was about nickel. This one's about cobalt, kids in mines and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's it. It was the dirty secret powering Channel 7's future. I'm going to switch the title. Channel 7. Channel 7 calling it out for Liam Bartlett, who apparently was an ex media consultant and employee of Shell Group. The pattern appears to be completely clear now that he is just desperately working for the fuel lobby, for the fossil fuel lobby, trying to find anything, whether it's credible or believable or factual or not, to come out and work for the fossil fuel industry. It was pretty crap, really, because he's been just blown out of the whole story's been just blown out of the water. I mean, I'm sure they got some hits, and I'm sure they got some coverage, but geez, it didn't seem to do much for Liam Bartlett or Channel 7's credibility or the general media when it comes to trying to claim that electric vehicles and renewables are the problem in Australia. All they did was made themselves look like fools, full of facts that are out of date and not true.
Yeah, I think there's probably more coming, right, as well. There's been, like, I've seen a lot of attention towards, like, people really want, there's quite a lot of momentum towards gas taxing the gas exports in Australia, which has historically been very underdone, and we've talked about before. And there's like some momentum towards trying to get 25% put through. And I think one of those ones where, exactly like you said, Nige, there's such a pattern about these people and these groups where something's coming for them, and it's like, we've got to distract, we've got to like start pointing the finger elsewhere. And I think renewables has come such a long way that not a very easy target, not the easy target that they think it is. And all they've got is bullshit.
The people that I talk to over here that have got EVs, they love them. Everybody's jealous of people that are driving around in EVs because they're not just exposed to this fuel scenario. It's kind of weird that we expose something that isn't really a thing. There was some talk about the Hornsdale big battery. That big battery did have batteries that were had nickel in them and then NMCs at that site, but later Tesla power packs use LFP batteries just because they're cheaper. And the first round, they just got car batteries and stuck them in a box. So, the technology's moved on. We're not using cobalt in most cars. They're mostly LFPs. It's only premium cars that have got NMC type chemistry. I'm a big fan of NMC, by the way. Faster charging, lower weight, more discharge, faster cars, all winning things to me. And if it's only a couple of kids, well,
Carl. I saw it coming a mile as soon as you started talking.
Leaving Carl in New Zealand right here. He'll never be coming back to Australia, listeners, just to be clear. Look, you can't deny the horrendous things around cobalt, but it was interesting because we put out the Smart Energy Council put out a fact pack. I worked with the marketing team, said, let's just get some facts out. This is pretty easy to knock down. We'll just put some facts out. And we did a little bit of a research piece and went, yeah, okay, out of the top 10 most popular batteries in Australia, none of them use cobalt anymore. I beg your pardon, 9 of them don't. One of them, according to Google, does, which was LG.
Is anyone installing LG anymore?
No, well, exactly. So I went, okay, Google's lying there anyway. But interestingly, what Google did determine was that even LG, where they did use cobalt in some of their batteries, presumably to get the footprint or the density or something else down, they were sourcing that cobalt from Australian mines with an ethical traceability route. So they had very deliberately chosen to get their cobalt from ethical sources that were traceable. So, it's dirty little secret powering Channel 7 and Liam Bartlett's future, not renewables, that's for sure.
It wasn't just Channel 7, SBS. Well, actually, I don't think we should be pointing the finger at SBS. I think that the piece that they did was fine, but just, in the zone of this, they put out an article that over 60% of popular cheaper home batteries program installations are substandard.
The old substandard
probably
thing.
It's bloody labels. And the non-mechanically protected wires we've been talking about and looking at and things like that, which, not to say that that's good, right? Things should be labeled, cables should be protected, all the, these installations should be fixed, but 60% is a really big number. And, what are we at for installations now? Like, in terms of how many cheaper home battery installs we have at the moment?
Oh, I heard the number today.
What's that, sorry?
It was 300,000 a week or two ago.
Higher.
Right?
Higher.
200,000 plus the 100,000 that were already installed. So we're at 400,000 in total, but 300,000 under the cheaper home battery scheme and 100,000 that were already installed.
Higher.
What number, Nige? What number? Give it to us.
My understanding is we've just passed the 10 gigawatt hour mark.
Jeez Louise.
Okay,
but how many installations? Just for the sake of...
That's going to put us somewhere between 350 and 400,000 would be my rough guess.
Cool. Well, let's call it 350 for the sake of numbers, right? Yeah. And I could probably just ask Carl, but I'll use a calculator.
I just said 300 plus the 100 we already had. So you said 350.
No, well, this is all new. This is all new. This is in addition to the 100 we had.
Right. But just to say, that's 210,000 installations if 60% of them are substandard, right? Like that's a hell of a lot.
I was chatting with some old mates the other day who were saying, yeah, a couple of their installers got pinged for a couple, and they went back and, had to fix a couple of things. And there's a bit of frustration because they went back, they fixed the things that they got pinged for. The inspector came and did a second check and went, oh, by the way, we missed these other things, so you got to come back again. And so there's a bit of frustration out there. There's clearly an intense focus on making sure this is safe and compliant and everything else. And I think what we're seeing with that 60%, as you rightly point out, and as all the statistics show, you can see them on the Clean Energy Regulator's website, the vast majority are to do with labelling. And labelling is important. We've touched on this issue before, so we won't, flog that dead horse, but it's important. And you're right, it's another beat up piece is it a beat up? I mean, it's reasonable to highlight that 60% are classified as substandard, but it's and I saw a couple of those articles myself where they were well qualified and said, look, the headlines, attention grabbing, but at the end of the day, that does not represent a massive issue. It doesn't represent a massive problem. It perhaps represents an issue with the labelling requirements.
Potentially.
Right.
They did say that it was 1.2% that were actually unsafe.
Correct.
So that is equivalent of, with these rough numbers, 4,200,
right,
which is still a lot of installations.
That said, Jess, a lot of these haven't actually been inspected by an electrical inspector like they have been in Victoria. So there's still New South Wales and, of course, Queenslanders.
Yep. And look, we've all been on Facebook and seen the horrendous photos of some of the garbage that's out there. And there's no doubt there's garbage out there. Over the years, I haven't done it for a while, but over the years, if you go digging and you look at non-compliance rates in air conditioning installation, or non-compliance rates and failure rates in hot water installation, or bloody car hoist installations, or any manner of appliances that could hurt or injure people or kill people, ironically, you actually can't find the statistics very easily. We are under so much scrutiny, and probably rightly so, because we're the beneficiaries of rebates and government support. But when you get out there and look at the compliance rates across other comparable sectors that have comparable risk and issues, they're actually pretty hard to find. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to find that we're actually better than most industries because we've got so much attention on the issue, right?
Yeah, well, have a look at the oil and gas industry. I mean, we've just had a major, well, one of Australia's only remaining 2 oil refineries blow up the other day.
That was a problem.
Yeah. I wonder what someone probably forgot to put the label on.
Well, a lot of the stories were that the maintenance, the cost of running that facility didn't justify the maintenance that was required, and they've been screaming for the maintenance, and they should have overhauled it years ago, and blah 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 blah. And the other refinery is even worse and even older and even more overdue for maintenance. So
it was a bit before my time, but one of my colleagues regularly references the pink bats debacle when he has customers like talking about cheap quotes, which I think is great.
Turns out that was actually a really, really good initiative, and they should have kept it going. Ultimately, insulating houses has a massive impact on the energy demands. But, of course, the solution to building and maintaining these colossal refineries is just putting some solar panels on the roof and plugging them into an inverter. It's not that difficult, right? It's not that difficult. They even come with plugs, Nige.
Where are we at with the Strait of Hormuz? Carl, you're tuned into it all. You're up in your hotel room at 3 a.m. in the morning with, sleepless nights in between.
We don't need to hear what Carl's doing at night.
Good times
in the terrible pillows. Yeah, terrible pillows.
Pillows and hotel rooms. Shout out to everyone who travels. I hate traveling because we're living out of a suitcase in a hotel room. It's not easy. It's actually quite hard work. But Carl's in another dimension, according to the YouTube video that we're looking at behind him on his window screen.
Multiverse, parallel dimension.
It turns out, Nige, that the best part about traveling is still meeting new people and meeting people that are passionate about renewables all over again. traveling with other sales reps and seeing how they stop off at the local bakery and pick up a pile of sausage rolls for the meetings with the customers, and buying a box of beer for the guy that's just opened his new shed. All of that stuff that you think, shit, I need to do more of that because, I'm too busy. I'm sitting in front of me, I've got stuff to do, and you miss out on that original sales craft, let's call it that.
The feels, Carl. You're giving me the feels. You're so right. So it's totally about that. That's the best bit about travel. But what I wanted to ask you was, in between all of this, you're no doubt awake at night, you're looking at your phone, Give us the update. Where are we at with the Strait of Hormuz today?
Our Prime Minister went overseas and has negotiated with other countries, and we've obviously got a pretty good case because we're prepared to pay for it. So there are people in other countries that can't afford to pay for it, and they're going without. And mum and dad's still taking the kids to school in the 300 series Land Cruiser when they could have just walked. So we're just fine. Yeah,
we're just fine.
It's expensive, but it's fine.
Yeah, I did see some. There was an announcement last week. There are a whole bunch of fossil fuel companies that launched a whole bunch of fake fuel price trackers last week as well. So as usual, you got to be careful what you believe out there. Luckily, we're about halfway through the episode, and one thing that is not fake is the goodwill from GoodWe. Let's hear a message from our sponsor.
Hey solar retailers, the GoodWe Rewards platform is back with $20 million in rewards available for you. Claim on every 5 and 8 kilowatt hour ESA battery module or ESA 30 kilowatt 60 kilowatt hour unit purchased from your distributor. Redeem your rewards on anything in our online catalogue, including Visa gift cards. Record, submit, get rewarded. Visit goodwerewards.com.au now.
Thank you, Good. We really appreciate it. Let's dive in, though. Now, I just want to shout out that by the time this episode comes out, it's only going to be about 5 sleeps till Smart Energy in Sydney. We'll be there. We will be doing, and Jess, Carl may not even know this yet, so I'm just going to drop it on you right now. We're doing a joint podcast. We're doing a battle of the podcasts with Pat and...
Put them up.
Pat and Lauren from our good friends over at Solar Sidekicks. We're going to do a joint podcast together. There'll be a space for the audience to come there. We'll be looking for votes. There'll be prizes for people who award the best podcasters.
We take bribes.
Yeah, we take bribes.
Beers, good merch, cash.
Yeah, anything will do. But I am
handshake.
I am looking forward to having a really fun podcast with them. There's a number of other great podcasters who are going to be floating around as well, and Pat's got massive plans. What else have we got going on there? There's multiple parties that I'm hearing about, of course. Solar Juice have got a big function on the night before. I think So Far Solar have got an event on. We've got the gala and the awards. I don't know if you saw, but a lot of people have been punching out all their notifications about whether they've been shortlisted for awards. And so all of that.
Tiana is our nominee. She's fantastic.
Let's go, Tiana!
Yeah, go Tiana. She's awesome.
She did a great job at the Catch Retreat, her little presentation. I've seen her speak at a couple of things, actually.
Yeah.
Superstar. Speaking of podcasts, Lauren Seconti is in the emerging leaders category. Well deserved.
Very well.
Especially loved her work on Solar Cutters a few weeks ago, just spreading some positivity and some love and some, the world's not falling over on 1st May messaging that we, I think, all desperately need. And Pat and Joe's training is also nominated. And then Springers are nominated.
Yeah.
Who else?
There's a whole list. I'm not going to run through them.
To not be biased.
And in fact, I very deliberately said I do not want to be anywhere near this. I don't want to be involved. I don't want to be in the judging panel. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I want to stay right out of it. Let me know when we've got a short list. I'll get the marketing team rolling. I'll get the sales team rolling.
You didn't get nominated for anything, buddy.
I got nominated for nothing. Nothing. Here I am.
Neither did I, right?
You got to manifest it, guys.
Yeah, you got to work hard. And I tell you what, one thing the team did say is, oh my goodness, we got more than 400 applications this year. So there were a few people who came back and said, oh, we had this really good application we put in. We were really disappointed. We didn't get shortlisted. I went, don't sweat it. There was 400. In one class alone, there was only 10 award categories. In one category, there was more than 100 in that category. Imagine the
Jeez,
judging panel's job to filter through, to read everything.
Yeah, let other up and comings have a go.
I don't know if you're up and coming, Carl. I think you're pretty established.
No, I'm old. Let the up and comings have a go, for sure. For sure. We want to bring in the new talent. Not like Nigel and I, we're the old talent.
Do you know what Costa said to me today? He said, I like 60-year-old Nige. I think 60-year-old Nige is a good Nige.
Awesome.
He didn't like 59-year-old Nige.
I don't know. I took it as a compliment, but and I said, well, I'm not quite 60. He said, oh, I like where you're going with it. You don't. You're not quite 60. You don't look 60. There's something going on. I like 60-year-old. Okay, I'll take it.
Look, I'm trying to follow in your footsteps, Nige, and the gorilla beard going quite well. I do have quite a few greys coming through there. That's why I put myself under this light, so that this.
You have to shave soon, right? The family's coming back home. You got to clean yourself up.
Yeah, she's back in a week. Yeah.
No more pizzas for you. I want to jump across to the AMC because we've talked about this. The AMC has a proposal flowing through to lift. The short version is, amongst a whole lot of other things, is to lift fixed charges, i.e. the standing charge or the daily charge that everyone sees on their bill, typically anywhere between, sort of 80, 90 cents a day to, perhaps $1.20 or $1.50 a day in the worst case scenarios currently. They have a proposal currently in to lift those daily charges dramatically, like in the order of 300, 400%. And that's not a Trumpian percentage. That is a legit, genuine percentage. I know Donald Trump works percentages out differently, as we learnt today. But it is a really, really, really serious issue. We ran a campaign, the Smart Energy Council ran a campaign on this and helped stimulate literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of submissions from all manner of organizations and individuals and people and businesses explaining how this is going to impact. Despite that, the AEMC is pushing on, and we are really at risk now that this is going to get shoved through. There is a battle that we are going to have to take to the field, and we are ramping up very, very rapidly to try and stop this from becoming the standard, because all it does is benefit DNSPs, and there are lots of other ways that DNSPs can make a crust other than simply penalising people with solar and batteries. Carl, you look like you've got something important to say.
I do know. So if you spent 10 grand on a battery, your daily supply charge from your own battery is $5. People have willingly accepted that. You just said there were 350,000 people who have accepted the fact that they're going to spend $5 a day on the battery that they've got. What's the difference?
Well, the difference is it's your $5 a day for your battery plus $5 or whatever it is, whatever the more than $1 is from the DNSP. So like you being happy to spend $5 a day on your battery makes absolutely no difference to them moving the goalpost on you. And if people want self-sufficiency, even getting in front of their $1 a day with their currently in South Australia 2 or 3 cent feed-in tariff and, not much better anywhere else, is already a pretty big uphill battle. Like the days of the $0 electricity bill, the goalposts keep getting moved further and further away. And fair enough that people would be pissed off about it.
The goal here is electrification, right? So if we reduce the demand by putting solar and batteries in people's houses, the goal here is electrification. If I get rid of their petrol car, their energy demand doubles, right? So that's I think that's the golden egg, as in we get them out of their petrol cars, we get them into electric cars, their energy demand doubles, and I have to get that energy from the network. I just can't generate it for 4 months, 5 months of the year in winter. Just haven't got enough space on the roof. So shift more energy.
Why should an electric vehicle owner be penalised because the network says you've got a battery and solar, so therefore I'm going to penalise you?
Well, they're just using a lot more energy, so I can spread that cost of a couple of bucks.
But this is the stupidity of it. The stupidity of it is their argument is because energy demand is going down, we need to recover costs in another way because we don't have the kilowatt hours, so we need the fixed daily charges. But if we are going down,
you and I both know, Nige, if I take away gas from Victorian homes, their energy demand doubles, and then if I add an electric car, it doubles again.
Bingo. So that's why it's a crock of shit.
It's going up. It's going up.
That's why it's a crock of shit. That's why we're fighting against it, and I think we have to come out and fight against it because as we electrify, we will be using more kilowatt hours. The fact that we've lowered kilowatt hours is a blip on the radar that is going to change as we electrify more. And guess what? By the time the if the DNSPs, let's be clear, it's the DNSPs driving this argument because they're concerned that they're not going to get the revenues because the kilowatt hours aren't flowing. And God bless the DNSPs, they deliver a wonderful service and they need to make a profit. That's fine. However, this is the same blunt instrument approach. It's the baseball bat approach that we have seen over and over and over again from the DNSPs. Oh, solar's going to break our networks. Quick, put fixed export limits on. Oh, actually, it didn't happen. Oh, solar's going to, eat your baby. Quick, put DRMO on every inverter so that we can turn inverters off. Oh, we never use that. Oh, yeah, solars and batteries are going to do this. They just keep coming at us. They just keep coming at us. And frankly, the world is going to be a different place. We're going to have moved on in 1 or 2 or 3 years' time, probably faster, thanks Donald, for accelerating electrification in the world. We are going to accelerate electrification, and this issue is going to be a non-issue. And if we let it get through, they'll just be the DNSPs will sitting back going, fantastic. Now we're getting $5 a day instead of $1 a day. And by the way, the kilowatt hours have gone up, so we're still getting JUOS and everything else. And thank you very much. The Bank of Saudi Arabia is now making a fantastic return for their bloody shareholders, and we're all paying the bill.
Well, we also know, don't forget there, that we've installed 400,000 batteries, and if they burn through 10 kilowatt hours a day, every one of them throws 2 kilowatt hours to the wind in conversion losses back and forth. So we've actually increased network demand by putting all of those batteries in because we don't have the renewables to cover it.
I know. Maybe our campaign should be that the network should actually be thanking us and they should be lowering their prices because we're doing so many good things for them.
I think as well, though, it's punishing the class for the one naughty kid, right? Because if you take Carl's argument at face value, which I don't, I don't know if I subscribe to.
No one in their right
anyway.
mind would ever do that, Jess. But keep going.
We need to drive people to think, right? That's what we're here for.
But so say we want to talk about the houses that have increased demand and the strain and the stress that puts on the grid.
Yep.
Fine. Let's have that conversation.
Yep.
This isn't affecting those people it's everyone's going to be paying these increased daily supply charges or whatever we're calling them this time. Everyone. It's every single person. The people who can't afford to invest in renewables are going to get just as punished as the people who can afford to invest in insulating themselves from these increased costs as much as they possibly can.
That's
but
right.
I think it's we already know what the right answer is. Incentivizing people to be clever about when and how they use their electricity. And we've got plenty of programs doing exactly that. And that is the answer, right? It's stopping people from trying to get a lot of power at the same time everyone else is, incentivizing, flattening the duck curve. We already know what the right answer is. I don't understand why this is the direction being taken.
City Power had a whinge in Victoria the other day. So they're around Brunswick. And a number of people complaining that their grid voltage is down around the 190s and their induction cooktops weren't working properly. Oof. Their EV chargers were dropping out and so on and so forth. And you're like, hey, guys, these are the rules. It's +10, -5 from 230 volts. if you guys can't keep it in the range, you need to go and invest in some infrastructure. And they're sticking their hand up saying, well, we need approval to spend the money to do this. It's like, mate, can't be complaining that the network's got not enough energy when you're unable to supply the customers with the energy that they're demanding. It's like, put the poles and wires in, mate. Crazy.
Yeah. I think it's always healthy to try and look at the other side of this argument. And there was actually a really thought-provoking piece on LinkedIn that I saw the other day from a guy who clearly is sort of more biased on the DNSP side of things, and he put up some really interesting graphs about the changes in demand and the change, dramatic changes in demand caused by solar and batteries predominantly. And there's no doubt that the business model for a DNSP is highly challenged, right? And it's long term. I sat on a panel for a while with one of the DNSPs trying to do their 5-year forward forecasts for where costs needed to be in the next regulatory period. And it's like I in fact I pulled out in the end because I went, this is fairy tale stuff. You're just trying to guess stuff that's we're 3 years away from a regulatory change, and you're trying to guess the 5 years beyond that and what the market's going to be like. You got zero. We're just,
how about this for an idea, Jess? That $5 a day, I'm getting $6 a day worth of free energy in that 11 till 2, which we're rolling out across a lot more network operators with the solar sharer scheme. What Nigel just said, that's going to change the Australian market massively. Like, we're going to see some huge changes. Is it going to work? Are people going to go for it? Are people, those deals are already out there in a lot of areas anyway, and people haven't jumped on them. So it'll be really interesting to see how that changes the market, and it's going to change it a lot.
It's not. This is actually the great part. This is the part that keeps me really excited about this industry, because this is the really interesting kind of social part about how do consumers behave with all these different signals coming at them and all these different incentives coming at them, and then you've got businesses owning and operating networks and transmission lines and generators down at the back end, and then you've got technology coming over the top of it, and then you've got innovators and entrepreneurs trying to get clever stuff going on. But at the end of the day, no one can really predict how consumers are going to react. We have price signals. I remember 20 years ago, it was all about, no, we'll just fix this problem by putting price signals in the market, and we'll just jam time of use down everyone's throat, and that'll fix the problem because consumers will react to those price signals. And well, you know what? They actually didn't very much, and it didn't really work. And so, it is the most fascinating part about this, because when you put humans in the mix and you try to predict how they're going to react and how they're going to behave, it's just so complicated to predict what they're going to do. So yeah,
well, the general person isn't very energy conscious, right? Like, they don't really have the scale for how much, you hear it with your initial inquiries with people, where you say to people like, what in your house is using a lot of power, and they start listing like the TV and I turn my lights on, and they're not mentioning the kettle. That like, it's a groundbreaking thing when you explain how much electricity a kettle uses to a lot of people. But when you have monitoring and you have a solar and battery system and you are invested, like, those people are way more likely to behavior, do the behavior side of things and put things on timers and use, home automation or just smart switches or blah, 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 blah. Like, that's exactly the people who, should be incentivized and targeted to make those changes, because they're already glued to their bloody app and showing their, families at the barbecues and stuff. Oh, look, I'm 99% self-sufficient, blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely seen that here in New Zealand. So see some customers and they open up their phone and they say, right, this time to this time, I use this much energy heating my water.
Yeah.
Yeah. In God we trust. Everybody else needs to bring data. So it just makes our job a whole lot easier going forward. When the consumers have got that data, they can make better choices because they've got the data.
And I guess we're kind of preaching to the choir, right? Like, in terms of like podcast listeners and the sphere we're in. But I just don't understand how the people who are making these decisions don't know it. Like, we know it. Why do they not know it? Well, I think I know the answer to that too. I just don't like it. But
Here. Well, with that, I'm inclined not to labour on too much more on this episode. It's just been the three of us, which has actually been really nice. We just to have a chat and catch up about all these things. We started the episode wondering if we'd have enough to talk about, and here we are, nearly an hour through. And clearly we could just keep wanging on, but we probably better wrap it up. And I'm going to throw for some closing comments. I'm going to go to you, Mr. Jensen, from the other dimension. What do you got in terms of closing comments this week?
Closing comments. Well, we hadn't actually listened to Luke's clip before we went to air last week. It was very moving for a lot of people. So lots of people have reached out to me this week and asked me if Luke's okay or if there's anything that they can do in terms of GoFundMe or whatever. My advice to all of those people, Luke's still here. Ring him. Right, ring him. So if he can't answer the phone right now, he'll call you back if he likes you. If he doesn't like you, it's just unfortunate. Hasn't got time for you. That's just bad luck. I'm not talking about you, Lewis Shepherd.
I think he said pretty specifically that he's pretty well loved as well.
Yeah. Look, Lewis said that he left a few messages and Luke didn't ring him back, and I said, mate, he's just been busy. But please reach out to Luke and say good day and pass on your support. I'm sure he'd be happy to hear or hear from you, and he's still happy to talk to people, and he's going to need our support. So thank you to all of those people that have reached out to me and asked me if it's okay. I'm the wrong person to ask, right? I should just ask Luke. So anyway, he's still around. I have said a prayer for him. Thank you to the Gideons for putting a Bible in the hotel room. Luke is still a very religious person, so I'm sure he appreciates your prayers. And other than that, great opportunity to be in New Zealand, and great to see that the solar industry over here is really starting to pick up some steam. Lots of electrical distributors are selling solar over here that don't sell solar in Australia, and they of course have the usual complaints. It used to be something that we could make money out of. Now it's very competitive. Price of solar panels is going up. So apparently there's some subsidies in China that aren't there anymore, and the cost of panels is going up. I'm not at the front line of that anymore, but people are telling me that panels have gone up by $20 a pop, which significant, right?
Yeah, and conduit and like copper's been going up for a while, but that's still going up. It's
all the things,
all the odds and ends.
All the things. Great closing comments, Carl, and much love to our old friend Luke, who we will look forward to talking to again very, very soon. Jess McPherson, how are you going to close it off?
Echoing Carl, I agree. Thank you to the people who reached out to me when they heard Luke's news as well. I think one of those ones where it like really makes you know that you've got your people, and makes me feel that Luke's going to be very well taken care of by his people in the industry and out. So that is really, really nice. I think I'm just really excited to see people in a couple of weeks. I'm excited for the weight to come off of people's shoulders a little bit as well. I've been really happy to see people talking about, how they're taking care of their staff and their installers in this time. I think it's always important, but the crunch is can make it really tricky. So really, really pleased to hear that. Just excited to be able to take a proper breath, I think.
Here. I'm gonna follow your theme right up, actually, because between Luke and an old family friend, and then I went and visited some old colleagues and discovered that some old colleagues have been ill or passed away, and work has been busy, in fact, frantically busy on the build-up, and I know everybody in the industry is the same. And I was kind of driving down the road to visit someone for an appointment the other week, and I went, geez, I feel weird, and I couldn't work out what was going on, and I realised I was having a slight panic attack, an anxiety attack, and I've only ever had one before in my life, and it was only on reflection the next day and after a trip to the doc to go, this happened. And he went, oh, well, you've got a problem with your disc in your neck, so that's probably contributing to some pain and stuff, and what's going on in your life. And we had a chat, and he went, you had a panic attack, an anxiety attack, you idiot. And I went,
oh yeah, I'm sure your doctor said you idiot. That sounds
more or less
verbatim.
He's a straight up doc. It's good. But it did remind me that in times like we have now, when business is full on, opportunities are full on, we've got people, we're aging, we've got people with illness around us, and sometimes that manifests itself in all sorts of ways, and the pressure comes out in all sorts of different ways for everybody. So I'm going to back up what both of you have said. Love your friends, love your family, take time out, look after yourself. I'm going to go and flip some coins tomorrow with my wife and two of my sons. Wish you were here, Charlotte, but we're going to go and flip some coins and remember some ancestors who tragically lost their lives. But don't waste a minute. Don't waste a minute of their life out there, my friends. Work hard, play hard, but don't waste a minute.
Thanks for sharing that, Nige. Not a lot of people are happy to talk about having those sorts of experiences. I think it's really good to talk about it.
I'm an open book, Jess, as most people would know. Generally speaking, can't tell you who the new CEO is yet. But
not so open anymore. Oh, that book closed right up, didn't it?
But you're welcome. I'm a fallible human. I learned that a long time ago, so you're welcome. With that, I'm going to once again thank Goodwe for supporting our show. We really, really, really appreciate their support to keep the wheels turning. Whoa, zooming from Jess McPherson, the Goodwe sign. We're going to need a new sponsor with a new symbol that doesn't zoom our things.
I can't fix it.
John, Dean, come on. It's wonderful for everyone. People talk to me all the time about listening to the show. We really appreciate you listening. Please give us a like, a share, and tell your friends about the show if you think they would enjoy it. And we will talk to you next time.
G'day, it's Alex Carey here. The new Goodwe ESA home battery is here, and it's a game changer with leading performance and safety features. The Goodwe ESA series is available now. Visit goodwe.com.au for more information.